Hi everyone, it's Cheryl Millett live at 5 Mondays on Facebook here. I just got back from the far north, all day driving, so I'm happy I made it to just in time. It makes more sense to be on time here. I have a presentation this evening, so this works out great. What did I want to speak to you about today? Well, I can tell you that the smells, and just lungs love that northern air a whole lot better than the city air, but we do the best we can. So today I want to talk about a couple of things. Hi, Marcia. Hi, Nadia. One of the things I really want to talk about is, again, there's the wonderful immune system. And the immune system, you hear more and more about autoimmune conditions. Allergies is tied to the immune system. Most of the immune system is lining the gut. Then we have the immune system, it's the largest organ in the skin, and that's first line of protection, even with the digestive system as well. You have this immune system. And one of the things that comes up more and more, even in doing this whole food safety workshop thing, is that we have compromised immune systems. But the compromised immune systems that we have is not necessarily always tied to disease. It's actually tied to chronic stress. And what happens when we have chronic stress, and we have whatever that means for any of us, but then we have this immune system that's not functioning as well, and that just means, we're not digesting our food. We have coming in with our food, or touching our mouths or whatever, we have these germs and bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungus, different things like that, through our food, through the water, through various things. So when I keep thinking about getting at the root cause is, yes, we have all this germ and bacteria, and we know that there is a lot of bacteria. Whether there's a lot of bacteria that is, triple the number of our cells, it really doesn't matter. At the best, we're going to have various different bacteria that are, on this planet, let's say, and they're going to be in different places. And we are going to have to, if we can, strengthen our immune system. And that's kind of tied to endocrine systems, tied to the nervous system, which is why when you're under a lot of stress, why you don't digest properly, and why that would actually affect those other two areas. So the whole mindfulness, meditation, they all help with managing stress. And there are people that have been around for decades and probably centuries and then some, where if you manage your stress, then you start to heal. You start to get better. But I'm thinking about, food safety and people who have, the chronic stress, wherever they are, autoimmune diseases, and, HIV falls into that, and others fall into that suppressed immune system or compromised immune system. There are things now, so just kind of observing people over the last week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks on what they're doing in their kitchen. So not saying anything, but just observing. And some of it's just that we're not quite sure what you're being taught, what's being passed down. And just for instance, even people still practicing thawing out their meat on the counter, thawing things out on the counter, the way they wipe the counter, what they wipe it with, all of these various things are such little things, but it would cut down on the bacteria that we do not want in our body, or we do not want there. So it's kind of like a win-win. If we could practice more food safety things and even know what to do, we would actually assist in less stressing out our immune system. I know there's always the processed food, but in most cases, processed food is dead food. It doesn't even have this, bacteria on it, that kind of thing. But I'm just going to give you one thing that I learned years ago. And this is something, it was very interesting, is around onions. So you can look this up. There's two things here. Onions are very strong. Agreed? They're very powerful. They add, flavor to foods, and we tend to put them in. But how do you store your onion? How do you store your onion? This is, let's say you've cut the onion in half. They're big onions. You don't want to use a whole onion. So you cut it in half. So here's a question. How do you store that onion after you've cut it in half? So I will let you know here what's very important to do with that onion if you don't already do it, because it is written that onions, you may not get food poisoning from the chicken. It's that the onion. So what happens is we have this fridge, and for some of us, not necessarily me, I'm opening and closing mine more during the day, but for some people, they open their fridge in the morning and then it sits closed for a number of hours. And that's a great breeding ground for bacteria. And onions quite often they're cut in half and they're just left open. They're just left open in the drawer, on the top shelf. And I don't know how many people know this, but onions are something that is used. Let's say you have a chest infection or some child's chest infection. And this is going back hundreds of years. The onions were actually put around the person who has respiratory condition, and that onion would actually absorb the bacteria. So here you have, hello everyone. So ideally, the onion has to be stored in some sort of sealed container. Now, sometimes we just put a little plastic around it, but if you make sure it's sealed in in a plastic bag, that's good, or some sort of a container, that's even better. But these things that are open, especially the onion, that's why I bring up the onion, will absorb these. And that is what it's meant to do. Just like the baking soda. I mean, I don't know if people put baking soda still in their fridge anymore, but those things would absorb the bacteria that's in the closed space. We have this closed space, which is why I try to get people to avoid leftovers, because they will just accumulate. They have some sort of bacteria on there, and they'll just continue to accumulate the bacteria, and then some digestive upset or more bloating or things like that. You can just kind of feel the difference if something is freshly made, and then it's been sitting for 2, 3, 4 days. I don't know how long people sit things. There are guidelines for all of this, especially for the chefs, the restaurants. And here, there's a lot of us, preparing food, bringing home food, maybe having food at work, and we're not quite sure. Most people are not quite sure what's safety. We could probably avoid a lot of discomfort. Foodborne illness is the technical food poisoning if you get it to that degree. But I'm saying, you have this bacteria that's growing. It might not be enough to give you food poisoning, but because the compromised immune system, you would be feeling the effects of it, right? So we're just trying to work towards, yes, ideally, we have all the things that actually support a stronger immune system. But that will be tied into chronic stress. That'll be tied into the nervous system, right? It'll be tied into the nervous system. So we kind of see how everything is connected here. But that was the one thing. Now, I promised last week that there's something that came up a couple of times around what's the most important organ. I don't know if you were on the call. And so I actually brought it up, and I thought I would read this. Hi, everyone. I thought I'd read this. This is hilarious, and you can look it up because it's also there, but I also put it in my book. So I'm just going to bring it up here. And the title of it is, When the Body Was First Made, Who Was the Most Important? So one day, the different parts of the body were having an argument to see which should be in charge. The brain said, I should be in charge because I run all the body systems, so without me, nothing would happen. The blood said I should be in charge because I circulate oxygen all over, so without me, you'd all waste away. The eyes said, I see everything and let the rest of you know where we are, so I'm the most important and should be in charge. The hand said, without me, you wouldn't be able to pick anything up or move anything, so I'm the most important and I should be in charge. The stomach said, I turn the food we eat into energy for the rest of you. Without me, we'd starve. So I'm the most important and should be in charge. The leg said, without me, you wouldn't be able to move anywhere. So I'm the most important and I should be in charge. Of course, everyone got into arguments, and the heart, lungs, and ears all say the same thing. But finally, the rectum spoke up and pointed out that he was the most important, even though the others didn't know it. All the others laughed and laughed to think of a rectum being boss. They said, you don't do anything. You're not important and you can't be in charge. Well, the asshole decided to prove the point and refused to function, blocked up tight. And after a few days, the blood was toxic, the legs were wobbly, the stomach was bloated, the hands were all shaky, the eyes crossed and ached, the feet felt like lead weights and were too weak to drag the body anywhere, and the heart and lungs struggled to keep going, and the brain grew feverish and was all foggy. They all agreed that they couldn't take it anymore and that this asshole was the most important. So the morals, there's a few morals of the story here. I hope you enjoyed it, and it's out there, but it's kind of funny. The asshole is just as important as everyone in the company. You don't have to be a brain to be a boss, just an asshole. Now, no matter how well things are going, it can be shut down by a single asshole. So anyway, that's and when we think of the organs and the most important organs and, working together, and we could have functions for everything in our body, and hopefully they're just going to cooperate and work together. But anyway, I wanted to read that out. So today was really just about understanding the compromised immune system, yes, and related to the endocrine and the nervous system, chronic stress. And when we have compromised immune system, less bacteria, the better. Yes, good bacteria, but the bacteria and viruses and molds and things like that. So this does get into food safety, which, because I'm creating a presentation for companies, I'll absolutely kind of bring in different things. But to talk specifically about the onion being left open, cut in half and just sitting in the fridge, it's been known that it's not so much the chicken that had, that gave the food poisoning, but it could very well be the onion and not the chicken or not the meat. So that's very important too as well. And there's many things related to food safety that I think most people do not know. It's just no course for it. And I think it would be very helpful. You'd have children maybe less sick at home, and you would have, ourselves bloating and all that comfortable stuff. But if you can avoid eating leftovers, work towards that. That's actually experimented with that for over a number of years. Eating no leftovers. I didn't do it for months and months and months, and then I would eat leftovers, and I could feel it. I could feel it in my digestive system. So not keen on eating leftovers unless they're stored properly and you kind of understand which things are better leftovers for the next day and things like that. But anyway, I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening. I'm going to get ready for a presentation tonight on omegas and fats, and I have a biochemist joining me tonight. So stay cool. I hear for those in Toronto that we have a big rainstorm coming, and hopefully nobody gets affected by the rains and the floods and so forth, or less people do. Anyway, have a good evening. It's Cheryl Millett, live at 5 Mondays, here to bring interesting information, and I never know sometimes until the day before. whatever kind of pops in. So have a good evening, everyone. I'll see you next Monday. Bye.